Hi, I'm Nadia and I'm an architecture student from University of Malaya. Being studying architecture for 2 years have taught me about how related we are to time. And so today I'm going to talk about architecture and its problematic relationship to time. Never have I ever thought architecture and time would be this related. I will be talking about the relationship of architecture and time through a few aspects that I've discovered, or I just realized. Time, or as what Oxford defined in their dictionary as the indefinite continued progress of existence, an event in the past, present, and future regarded as a whole. Say, I will start off my talk with one question. How is your time management when you were still a first year student? You know, those first year memories where you don't know anything about designing building. Those moments where you started using complicated Latin-based words like fenestration for window, and entrance for door, or maybe chamber for room, or even plana for flat. Sounds fancy, right? But do you have enough time to finish all your projects? Do you find enough time to do your assignment while at the same time doing your studio project? Guess what? Me too. I've been struggling a lot to manage my time to do all the stuff, and at the same time joining many college projects too, because you have to be active in college. Now, ask yourself again, have things ever changed in the way you manage your time until now? Exactly. During my first year in architecture, I've learned how important it is to make full use of your time, be it for your project submission or assignment or even in your daily life. You have to wake up early and prepare for your grade. Even eating feels so rushed, and sometimes you don't even take bath because you still have a few elevations to render. Is the left one yours or the right one yours? Or maybe you have also tried both, but still you can't wake up, you still become the animator time. I still remember vividly how I submit my project late. It's actually because I procrastinate a lot. And as a big procrastinator, I know that it is always possible for me to finish all the tasks in the given time. I pull all night just to finish that drawing overnight and then offer sleep on the submission date. Guess what my lecturer said? Wow, this is the best design I've ever seen. No, that did not happen. Got you there. Anyway, I did really bad for that project. As we have to do everything manually, it took a lot of time and focus. And then come my sophomore year. We are allowed to use digital design, and I've discovered a whole new perspective of architecture. Yes, drawing traditionally are still used until now, and I'm still using it. But I can see that the difference when I started doing my board digitally. Oh my god, it saved a lot of time, and I can see some improvement in the way I design. Software like AutoCAD, SketchUp, Revit, or even Rhino is really the lifesaver. I get to explore more design of building with unimaginable shape, the one like Zaha Hadid did. Immersing myself in more digital work have piqued my interest into learning more about all this stuff. I've actually been interested into all this digitally software since I was in high school. Adobe Photoshop is the very first software I learned, and it is really interesting that you can do a poster within an hour. By cutting some time on drawing and painting manually with Photoshop, you only need to click one button and you already have a nice clean yellow background for your poster or board. And in architecture, I also get to learn how to render using Photoshop, and I feel like it really requires a lot of effort and technique. However, there's also 3D software for rendering, like V-Ray and Luminance, which will render your building in just a few minutes. Well, actually depending on the size, and if your program did not crash. That's terrible, guys. Anyway, architecture students have long grown about the long hours and all-night work session demanded by their major, and we have all thought no other major must be working this hard, right? Just a matter of fact, thanks to the result from Indiana University National 2016 Study of Student Engagement. Back up with some numbers, because numbers makes everything more confusing. Yes, architecture students were found to work on the average of 22.2 hours per week, more than 2.5 hours than any other major. The number in the study represent the average amount of time spent preparing for class each week, including studying, reading, writing, and doing homework or studio work. The numbers shared by Indiana University were gathered from student surveys conducted over the past years and include freshmen and seniors. So why do we take this course then? For the sake of passion? That's a question I always ask myself. Knowing that we always had to work extra hours, I don't know who is to be blamed. Why are there extra hours for us? Only one thing came across my mind when I'm feeling like a sort of damsel in distress in this situation. Technology and innovation. Okay, that's two. But anyway, I think as a student, precisely architecture student, we should also be given a chance to explore more on the innovation part of architecture. You see how amazing technology in architecture has developed the way we think about design, construction, and experience of the built environment. I believe technology has opened the door to the future and is one of the vital essences that change the way society behaves, as well as transcending the surrounding to suit the way the society lives. However, to talk about the future means to understand the time. And I think it is crucial for us to understand that time is not such a simple or obvious phenomenon, but that one has to exercise considerable ingenuity to fit into a coherent picture of the universe. As architectural field grows, relationship between time and architecture become much stronger. Well, I think it took longer time for a building during the ancient time to be built, while it seems like a simple house can be done in just a few days. Thus, why can't we think of something to reduce the working hours of architecture students too? Or at least see the problems which is causing us all to become zombie at night. I mean, not saying that I don't want to work longer, but however, working longer will cause students to become tired of their own job too quickly, making the work seems more arduous and the student less productive. I believe that an effective balance of work and social life is essential to productivity in order for us to create a better quality architect. Maybe let's talk about construction now. How can we solve the time-consuming problem in construction? Is it just the responsibility of an engineer to think about that? Well, I'm trying to look through another perspective. As a designer, I have always believed that we should be designing not what the society wants, but what the society should have. And who is the better man that knows what the society wants? Isn't it the architect that should know about this? I really think that architect and engineer could have been collaborating and creating more innovation in architecture field. For example, new software can be designed to reduce the amount of time drafting the building in laptop, or even new materials for construction like self-filling concrete, which will reduce time and cost to fix the structure, or even new method like what have been done by latent construction when they are assigned to construct a medical center. Well, what they did was that they create realistic 3D models of the medical rooms, replacing the typical physical mock-up, and ask the client to interact via VR goggles. The idea is to actually give them a real-world context of the rooms fields before the construction commences, eventually reducing the potential change of orders and other delays. And guess what? It succeeded. The irony is, by doing this virtually, the mock-up were more realistic and more useful. Have new technologies also modified how the time interacts with architecture? Well, instead of just focusing on the aesthetic aspect, we should also be figuring out how to invest as little material as we can in any given structure. Alright, let's talk more about the timeline of architecture since we are talking about time and how architecture has changed through time until now. Okay, so we have Greek architecture, Roman, Renaissance, and then what? We have Gothic, Baroque architecture, and then comes neoclassical style and modern style. Oh, there's also Brutalist and Art Deco and Art Nouveau. From having more and more ornamentation to having no ornamentation at all, period. I guess, as we all agree, architecture has always become the witness to time, and not to forget, the victim of time too. As refer to the building and everyone that is involved in this time-consuming field. So I always question myself if it is really the responsibility of an architect to take care of time. Well, in my opinion, somehow, yes. In fact, we are all responsible of time. Do you think architecture style should remain only on their certain period, or does architecture as written historically timeless? There are styles that can no longer be seen in this era, and I think it is actually kind of a waste just to throw away the history and characteristic of the past, as we can always learn and take something from it. Let's look at the vernacular architecture, for example. The architecture style is still used until nowadays. Vernacular architecture is the architecture style that is designed based on local needs. Timber is used mostly. The construction is only relied on the design skills and tradition of local builders. I think it is really amazing how the technique of construction is still used in modern building, like the roof structures and also the framing. Timber is also widely used around the world and is labeled as one of the best sustainable material. Thus, as I mentioned earlier, the relationship between time and architecture exists in every aspect, from our studio life until the development of technology, and also the changes of architecture style. Based on my experience and understanding, architecture is not all about design. And as I go deeper into this course, learning about architecture, I learned that there's a lot more to learn. Being able to design actually is as important and as recognizing the environmental problems that have been happening in our surrounding. Time is redefining architecture into not just a designing field, but a field where it complies the society need and comfort. Architecture is not just about catching up with time. Architecture should consider time as a part of its process to create a better outcome for the future.